Since we are a week away from the release of the Edge of Fate expansion, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the Rite of the Nine event. Did this event deliver, or was it short of accomplishing its goals? I think the case could be made for both. Personally, I'm pretty torn on how I feel, so I'm curious on what you think about this event. If you want to share at any point, drop a comment down below. Now, before we talk about my thoughts, just want to say, if you want more content from me, be sure you hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified on when my next video drops. Destiny will certainly be hitting a overdrive next week with the new expansion. Tons of stuff to be looking out for, whether it be a build, weapon god rolls, or other stuff related to the game. There will be a ton of videos to be looking forward to. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about some of the good with Rite of the Nine. So it's safe to say this event had a lot of expectations. With the massive success of Pantheon, a 6-man event tied to raid encounters, Bungie was expected to deliver here, and they kinda did just that. This will end up leading into some of the bad, but frankly, Rite of the Nine honestly did a lot of good stuff to inspire confidence into more events like this, and even just core gameplay stuff. The biggest standout, in my opinion, is going to be the difficulty. This was a sign of Bungie offering a nice understanding of proper challenge design. For so long, Bungie has just honestly threw champions at us and called it a day. They've even locked our loadouts. But in recent times, with Legendary Campaign, with the addition of Banes, and now an actual difference in encounters based on a difficulty set by the player, Bungie's philosophy around challenge finally feels in a wonderful, diverse place for the game. Explorer offered not only a more introductory experience for players, but a lighter, easier time. One you could enjoy with randoms since matchmaking was an option. Now, whether or not you actually enjoyed your time with randoms is a different conversation, but in all, it was nice. Ultimatum offered the hardest, more rewarding, and honestly a different experience. Not only were players timed on encounters, there were different requirements for said encounter, even mini bosses to add pressure to fire teams when it came to that ticking clock. This is the challenge, honestly, we have been waiting for, and something that has general thought behind it. Sure, raids and dungeons for the longest were great examples of introducing challenge via mechanics or some other stuff, but what we saw in Ultimatum was more than that. Surely it's not for everyone, but it's a great sign on difficulty for the gameplay loop of Destiny when Edge of Fate drops. Another part I think some people are forgetting is how this translates into the idea of raid challenges. This was something we saw in the TWID back in September 2024. They said this: in the first major update following Codename Apollo, which we now know as the Edge of Fate expansion, the raid will receive a challenge update, adding new rewards, new mechanics, new feats, and potentially even new encounters. And then if we skip a little bit, in addition to the highest tiers of the raid rewards being available from these challenges, new and exclusive rewards will be added as well, including new weapons and a catalyst for the raid's exotic weapon. So yeah, stuff like this makes me feel even better on the impact of what these challenge updates can do for a raid. One problem I've had with raids in the past is that the lifespan feels a bit short compared to what it was in D1. Now, I do want to say that craftable weapons were causing a lot of that, but this challenge update can be something to get excited about with what we saw in Rite of the Nine. But while it's sunshine and rainbows for the difficulty part of this event, let's talk about the bad. Compared to the Pantheon event, I think this was a very lackluster structure to experience. I really loved how there was a ramp up in the Pantheon with how there were individual counters pieced together into its own thing, meaning something from King's Fall could chain into something from Root of Nightmares that can chain back into King's Fall, vice versa, and other raids. It evolved each week and it was truly incredible. Rite of the Nine was just the dungeon with some very well done challenge update if you so desired, with the ultimatum difficulty, and honestly, like nothing else. I personally was really hoping when this was announced that we were going to see encounters pieced together like we saw in Pantheon. It would have been cool to start off at the top of the spire with the second encounter of Spire the Watcher, then leading into the cube puzzle encounter from Prophecy, and then wrapping up with a final boss encounter from a different dungeon. Seeing something like that would have been pretty cool, and potentially even seeing different combos each week and maybe even a longer, more grander combo with all the encounters pieced together on the final week. Maybe I'll fold a bit on the fact that there is generally more content to pull from with raids than with dungeons, but at the same time, Bungie proved that they could make new encounters with some of the ultimatum stuff. Ascending the Spire is a great example of making an encounter out of something that felt very easy and kind of filler. So again, maybe I'm in the wrong, but I really would have liked piecing together encounters rather than just replaying a whole dungeon again for said week. Now, another thing that was bad, and I think specifically we'll make a more dedicated video on this, but I quickly do want to mention the fact that I felt like the loot wasn't as rewarding as I would have liked. A lot of that was kind of bound to happen based on the frames, but then again, this is something I will go more in depth on with my Rite of the 9 weapons video. I feel like we could have maybe made the rewards slightly better as a whole. Now, that doesn't mean some weapons don't stand out, because they do, but I feel like the overall arsenal doesn't really do it for the overall sandbox, and I don't really see it doing it for the overall sandbox when the Edge of Fate drops. Like I said, there are some bangers here, but also some complete duds. More on this some point this week. But yeah, pretty much that's the video. Bungie crushed it in a great way with the challenge of Rite of the 9, but I think overall they missed the mark on the execution of the activity. As always though, it's just my thoughts. I'm curious on what you have to say on it. So like I said before, if you want to leave your thoughts down below on this topic, do so. Curious to hear what you have to say. Also, if you enjoyed the video and found this video informative, be sure to hit that like button, helps out the video a ton. And like I said before, if you want more content from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified on when I drop more videos. Expect tons of Destiny stuff as well as other stuff we post on the channel. But as always, thank you for watching. It's greatly appreciated. Until next time, ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.